Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode in our series of contemporary Western philosophy. Last time we took a look at Nietzsche's philosophy of the human person. Today we'll dive a little bit more deeper into his philosophy of God. Now, Friedrich Nietzsche was one of the most radical critics of religion, especially Christianity. He saw God, religious beliefs, and morality as obstacles that stopped human from reaching their full potential. Now, his famous statement, God is dead, was not just about rejecting religion. It was a call for humans to take control of their own lives. So, let's begin with the first concept here itself of God is dead. Now, Nietzsche did not literally mean that God had died. Instead, he meant that belief in God was no longer strong in modern society. In other words, people had stopped relying on religion to explain the world. And here he says that science, reason, and human creativity was replacing religion. Imagine a time when people thought that thunder was caused by an angry god. Later, science explained it as electricity in the clouds. In the same way, Nietzsche saw that traditional religious ideas were, in a way, becoming outdated. For him, this was good news. Now, why was this good news? Because he says that without God, humans could finally be free to live their lives fully without religious rules holding them back. And in this way, we see that he thought Christianity encouraged people to reject life by focusing too much on the afterlife, to feel guilty instead of embracing their natural instincts, and to submit to authority instead of thinking for themselves. Take, for example, somebody who wants to follow their dreams, but religion tells them that desires, ambition, and personal success are sinful. Nietzsche would say that this person is holding themselves back because of religious beliefs. And therefore, his message was clear. And what was his message? Believe in yourself and in this life, not in a life after death. So you believe and do everything in this life itself. Do not believe in a life after death. Now, he had a very harsh criticism of Christianity. Now, it is said Nietzsche hated Christianity because he believed that it made people weak. Now, he thought that Christian values like humility, patience, and forgiveness were in a way designed to keep people obedient and powerless. And therefore, he called he called Christianity as a curse on humanity. Why? Because it stopped people from being strong and independent. Why? Because always there is the emphasis on being dependent on God. Next, he called Christianity as a suicide of reason. Why? Because it asked people to have faith rather than thinking. So rather than thinking for yourself, you have faith and trust in God. And ultimately, he called it as the greatest lie because it taught people to seek happiness in heaven rather than on earth. Now, why did he hate Christianity so much? Now, Nietzsche saw Christianity as a religion of the weak, and he believed that it was created by people who were too afraid to fight for power. So, therefore, they invented values like humility and meekness to make themselves feel better. Now, let's take, for example, two people in history. So, you have a strong, brave warrior on one side and a humble monk on the other. Now you have a strong, brave warrior who conquers lands, builds an empire. On the other hand, we have a humble monk who preaches peace and tells people to love their enemies. Now, Nietzsche admired the warrior because they embraced life fully and lived with strength, whereas he disliked the monk because they taught people to be weak and to accept suffering instead of overcoming it. And therefore, for Nietzsche, the Christian priest was the worst of all. He was someone who preached weakness and made people guilty for being strong. And therefore, he calls them venomous spiders of life, trapping people in fear and obedience. Now, one may ask, was Nietzsche's view of religion one-sided? Well, even though Nietzsche was one of Christianity's harshest critics, he was also a very complex thinker. Now, in some parts of his writings, he admired certain religious figures for their strength and passion. For example, he respected Jesus not for his teachings, but he respected Jesus because he lived courageously and challenged the society. So Jesus basically challenged the laws that were there during his time. On the other hand, he also respected Buddha for his wisdom and ability to detach from worldly illusions. So therefore, this shows that Nietzsche's attack was mainly on organized religion and its rules, not on individual religious figures. And therefore, when we look at Nietzsche's philosophy of God, it challenges us to question our beliefs. And therefore, Nietzsche's philosophy of God will make us, in a way, introspect and ask ourselves these questions. Are we living our lives, or are we just following rules? Do we accept suffering passively, or do we fight to improve our lives? And finally, are we focused on an afterlife, or are we making the most of this life? So, dear friends, with this we come to an end to Nietzsche's philosophy of God. Next time around, we'll take a look at his philosophy of the world, where we'll speak about his love for the pre-Socratics and also the idea of eternal recurrence. So till then, thank you for watching. See you next time.